Welcome to World Gone Weird, discussing what the heck is going on in the world today. And man, is the world still weird.
Weird is putting it mildly. It feels like every day is a new level of chaos. I mean, I try to keep up, but it's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, isn't it? It's hard to know where to focus sometimes. I keep hoping for some good news, something positive to latch onto.
Good news? On this planet, honey, I'm more likely to find a unicorn wearing a MAGA hat than good news these days. But hey, at least we've got each other to process the madness.
All right, let's dive in then. The big story, or should I say, one of the big stories today, is this New Orleans terror attack. Truck plows into a crowd, ISIS flag, IEDs. It's a mess.
A mess is an understatement. 15 dead, dozens injured, and this guy, Jabbar, apparently a U.S.-born Army veteran. It's just, how does something like this even happen?
It's devastating, truly. My heart breaks for the victims and their families. And the timing, right after New Year's celebrations, it's just horrific.
Yeah, well, nothing says Happy New Year like a homicidal truck rampage. Festive, right? But seriously, it's just awful. 15 people just gone. And the fact that he's an Army vet, what went wrong there?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? The FBI's on it, investigating his background, possible connections to terror groups, the works. It's the same pattern again and again. Radicalized individuals, often with some connection to the military, committing these atrocities. There are systemic issues that are not getting addressed.
See, this is what I mean. Are we ever going to learn? We pour billions into the military. We indoctrinate these people, teach them to kill, and what do we get? Another ticking time bomb. And the ISIS flag, I mean, come on. Why are we still dealing with that?
It's a reflection of a global problem, really. The internet is such a powerful tool that people are able to connect with and be indoctrinated by any extreme idea, no matter where they are. It breeds this us versus them mentality, and it is terrifying to see how easily some people are being pushed to violence. And as for the military aspect, it shows that the trauma of service can manifest in really dark and unpredictable ways.
Oh, the internet, the great echo chamber of doom. You can find an online group for anything these days, even a club dedicated to dressing like garden gnomes. It's a circus, and some people are just losing it in the middle ring. And military training plus access to weapons sounds like a recipe for disaster, no?
Absolutely, it's a complex issue with multiple contributing factors. And the fact that there were IEDs found as well, not just the truck, it shows planning and a degree of sophistication. This wasn't just a random act, this was premeditated.
Premeditated, radicalized, and it's happening here in the U.S. What was the phrase? The enemy within. Seems like it's becoming a terrifying reality. And then you add the Las Vegas thing, the Cybertruck explosion at the Trump Hotel. What are the odds of all this happening back to back?
And it isn't just a coincidence. The FBI is looking into a possible connection between these two attacks, and that is the really scary part. There could be a much wider network at play and not just isolated instances. This means that the potential for escalation is always there. It is like a global ticking time bomb.
Yeah, we're not talking about a couple of rogue squirrels. These are coordinated events, or at least potentially, and that's what's truly unsettling. It's like watching a bad spy thriller, but in real life and with real casualties. And the Cybertruck? Really, the irony is thick enough to cut with a knife.
Right, so the Cybertruck explosion, they're saying the suspect, Matthew Leivelsberger, rented the car through Turo, had multiple addresses in Colorado Springs. And like with the New Orleans attacker, they are looking into a military background. The FBI has brought in ATF. This suggests a serious investigation. It's like pieces of a puzzle that you don't want to see forming.
A puzzle of madness. Military background, rented vehicle, explosions. It's almost a checklist for a domestic terror attack. And the fact they were both military? Are we attracting the wrong sort? Are we training them wrong? I am concerned where this is all going.
It does raise questions about what is going on in our society that makes some people see violence as the only option. And the military is designed to take normal young people and change them. It is designed to remove empathy for the enemy. And it has been shown again and again that trauma changes you. It's imperative that we address the root causes of these actions, not just the symptoms.
Oh, root causes, that's cute. Like we're going to have a national therapy session for disgruntled ex-military guys who rent Teslas and blow things up. Maybe we should just start giving everyone puppies. Maybe that will calm things down, probably cheaper than endless wars anyway. But then we'd have puppy poop everywhere. Okay, bad idea.
Well, puppies might help with stress levels, but these are clearly people who have been radicalized. The fact that they had military training adds a level of skill and access that is terrifying. This also exposes vulnerabilities in rental services, both for vehicles and potentially for places like Airbnbs.
And the fact they both had a military background, that's the most worrying part. Is our military creating monsters? Are we failing our veterans when they return home? It's a deep question that no one wants to answer, but it needs to be addressed.
It's not just about blaming the military, it's about looking at the bigger picture. The way we handle trauma, the ease with which people can get radicalized online, the lack of mental health resources, all these things contribute to a breeding ground for violence. We also have to look at what these people are seeing and hearing, and how it is impacting them.
Mental health root causes, systemic issues. We're starting to sound like a therapy session. And I'm pretty sure most of us aren't qualified to be anyone's therapist, least of all this lot. But yeah, it is a scary thought. The idea of a whole generation of mentally scarred people with military training and a bone to pick. Let's just hope they find a better hobby, like competitive knitting or something.
Right. And the added layer of explosives, IEDs in New Orleans, and a truck filled with fireworks, mortars, and gas canisters in Las Vegas. This points to a deliberate effort to cause maximum damage and chaos, and it is extremely worrisome that a truck filled with explosives could be moved into place and detonated. That alone speaks to major gaps in security.
So, we're dealing with not just random acts of violence, but coordinated attacks, possibly with an ideological backing. And what is being done about this? What is our government doing? It's like they're just waiting for the next shoe to drop before taking any real action.
That's the frustration, isn't it? It feels like we're constantly reacting instead of being proactive. We need to find the underlying threads that connect these actions, look for the triggers and pathways that lead to these kind of atrocities.
Oh, proactive. Like we're all going to become psychic and predict the next truck-wielding maniac. It feels like the only way to truly stop these things is to live in a bubble. Bubble wrap, padded rooms, and absolutely no access to the internet. Sounds cozy, I'm in.
You know, speaking of the internet and the potential for these kinds of things, it also links to some of our other conversations. If you look at AI, for example, the rapid development of that, we talked last week about the potential for it to be misused, to enhance conflicts and sow discord. These guys are using encrypted messaging platforms. They're using the tools at their disposal. This is now a whole new reality.
And AI could create this false reality, amplifying these narratives. And what about quantum computing? I was reading an article the other day about the potential for it to be used in warfare. That's terrifying. Imagine these guys having access to that.
Oh my God, quantum computing in warfare. That opens up a whole new can of worms. Imagine the level of offensive capabilities if someone has access to that. We could be looking at a whole new level of warfare where the potential for catastrophe is immense.
Quantum computing? Oh, you mean the thing that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie? Great. So now we're not just dealing with disgruntled vets and trucks, we're potentially looking at some sort of Bond villain-esque scenario. Can we just go back to the days of slingshots and shouting matches? This is all too much.
Well, let's dive into the quantum computing thing. You are right, it's not science fiction anymore. The potential for offense is staggering. We're talking about breaking encryption, developing new weapon systems, and creating algorithms that can make current defenses completely obsolete. Imagine a world where your security systems are not just vulnerable but completely useless.
So, a total game changer? Like we're going from tanks and guns to some kind of invisible warfare, fought in the quantum realm. How does that even work? How can we possibly defend against that? What exactly are the capabilities here?
The potential is truly terrifying. Quantum computers could, for example, be used to break the encryption of the banking system. They could break missile guidance systems or communication networks, rendering our military completely useless. It could also be used to design completely new weapons and systems of attack that we cannot even imagine. We are so far behind on the ethics. We are going to wake up and find that the train has already left the station.
Okay, so we're all going to have to learn quantum physics. Right, I'm out. This is beyond my pay grade. I can barely use the microwave, let alone understand how particles can be in two places at once. This whole quantum warfare thing is just going to be another mess for people way smarter than me to worry about. As long as they don't turn my toaster into a weapon, I'm good.
No, you don't need to understand the intricacies of quantum physics to grasp the implications. Think of it like this. Current encryption relies on the fact that classical computers would take billions of years to break certain codes. Quantum computers could do it in minutes. The level of vulnerability it creates is unprecedented. We also need to think about offense. This means that nations are racing to create quantum weapons.
A quantum arms race, like we needed another reason to be worried. So now countries are scrambling to build these things, knowing it gives them a massive advantage. Where does it end? Are we just going to end up with the most powerful quantum computer holding the rest of the world hostage?
That's the fear, isn't it? It becomes a matter of who has the biggest and the fastest quantum computer. It creates this massive power imbalance, where countries with these advanced capabilities could hold a terrifying level of control. We need to have a serious global conversation about this. How do we ensure that everyone is at the table? But I don't see it happening.
Oh, a global conversation. Right, like that's ever worked out well in the past. The last time we had a global conversation, we ended up with the United Nations. And look how effective they are, with all of their strongly worded letters. So, yeah, get ready for a world where the geeks with the biggest quantum computers decide our fate. As long as they don't cancel my favorite streaming service, I guess we'll be okay. Probably not okay. Not at all.
But this isn't just about breaking codes. We're talking about the potential for quantum radar, which could detect stealth aircraft with ease, or quantum sensors that can pick up the faintest signal, making even the most advanced submarines visible. The battlefield changes completely.
So the whole concept of stealth becomes irrelevant. We're dumping billions into tech that will be outdated overnight, and we're still arguing about budget caps while other countries are developing systems that could render our stuff useless. It's like throwing darts in the dark.
And think about how this changes intelligence gathering. Quantum computing could be used to analyze vast amounts of data in real time to predict enemy movements or identify emerging threats before they even occur. It means countries could be targeted without ever knowing it is coming. It removes the time to react. It's not just physical battlefields, it's on the digital ones too.
Oh, great. So now we're getting into psychic warfare. We'll have to start wearing tinfoil hats just to be safe. Imagine the recruitment posters. Join the military, we can see the future, sort of. It's like we're living in a very bad video game that no one wants to play anymore. And can we talk about how much this all costs? Who is footing this bill?
The cost is astronomical, and that's part of the issue. The nations with the deepest pockets will have a head start, creating an imbalance that's going to be hard to redress. It perpetuates a cycle of spending and escalating tensions. We have to ask, where is this all going? Are we racing to another cataclysmic event?
And the ethical implications? We haven't even scratched the surface. Imagine a world where a government has a quantum computer that can predict your every move. That is the end of liberty and freedom. We would need safeguards in place, and we don't have even the start of any of that.
That's what terrifies me the most. The potential for misuse is off the charts. How do we ensure that quantum computing is used to benefit humanity, and not just to further the power of nations who have the biggest and best? I also think about the level of surveillance this would bring. Our own privacy becomes impossible.
Okay, so no more secrets. Big Brother will be watching, or should I say, Big Quantum will be watching. We can all just throw out our diaries and start writing our thoughts on billboards, because what's the point now, right? Privacy? It was a nice concept while it lasted. Maybe we can all just live off the grid, form a community in the mountains, and refuse to use electricity. Seems safer.
It's not just about governments either. Quantum computing could also be used by terrorist groups or criminal organizations, giving them capabilities that are on par with some nations. The distribution of this technology, even through black markets, would also create a whole new level of danger and threat.
So, we're not just worried about nation-state actors, but non-state actors as well? Terrorists with quantum computers? That sounds like the plot of a bad comic book. It's like they're already working on the next evolution. We're already in the era of asymmetrical warfare, and this just pushes it to a whole new level.
And it's not just physical or digital attacks either. We have to consider information warfare and the potential for manipulating data, influencing public opinion, or even rigging elections. With a quantum computer, you can analyze and change huge swaths of data that would go completely unnoticed. It is about control on every level. Okay, so elections, data, opinions, they're all going to be manipulated by some algorithm created by a kid in a basement somewhere with a quantum computer. I mean, is there anything safe anymore? Can I even trust this podcast? Maybe we're all just being fed propaganda created by robots. I am starting to think maybe I should just learn to live with no technology, no more internet. It's all bad.
It's the speed of this that is frightening. The technology is evolving so fast that governments and international bodies are struggling to keep up. There's very little in the way of regulation or oversight. That lack of regulation and the speed of its growth is what concerns me most.
Exactly, it's like we're building a plane while it's already in the air. We have no idea where it's going, who's flying it, or if it even has the correct safety measures. We are so far behind the curve that it's not even funny. I am not sure if we will ever catch up.
And the focus seems to be on how these new technologies can be weaponized, rather than on what we could do with it. Imagine what we could do in terms of medical research, material science, or even helping with environmental issues, if our focus wasn't on fighting wars.
Oh, that's adorable. You actually think we'd use this for good. It's like giving a toddler a flamethrower and expecting them to toast marshmallows. We're too busy fighting over the last slice of cake to worry about how to use this stuff for the betterment of humanity. We will just end up finding new and innovative ways to kill each other.
But the potential benefits are real. You are right. Think about the development of new drugs and materials, or the ability to create simulations that can tackle some of the big global challenges like climate change. It's a technology that could solve a lot of problems if we can actually put aside our aggression.
But is that in our nature? Will we ever put aside our aggression long enough to actually cooperate and work for common goals? History has proven that power corrupts, and the lure of dominance is just too strong for us to resist. We never learn.
We have to try. We have to hold out hope for the ability of humanity to do the right thing. I know it is hard to be optimistic right now, but we cannot lose that hope. The consequences are too big.
Oh, hope. That's a nice idea. I'll be over here, curled up in a ball waiting for the inevitable. Maybe when the quantum overlords finally take over, they'll at least let us binge watch old sitcoms. If not, well, maybe the singularity won't be so bad after all. Just a quick and painless reset.
So we are now in a situation where we have this technology emerging that has the ability to completely transform warfare and potentially society. And at the same time, we are seeing these kinds of attacks in the US. This is not a coincidence. Things are accelerating faster than we can process.
The world is becoming increasingly unpredictable, and the combination of radicalized individuals, powerful new technologies, and a lack of leadership or international cooperation is a recipe for disaster. I mean, what does the future even look like?
We're facing a perfect storm of global issues. There is inequality, poverty, climate change, and this new quantum computing race. We desperately need more communication, more transparency, more effort to connect and work together. I know that sounds naive, but I don't see any other path that is not destructive.
Transparency? Yeah, like governments would be transparent if they had a secret quantum superweapon. We will be lucky if they tell us that there is war after the bombs have started to fall. I am starting to think we were better off before we knew about any of this, before we had the internet or the ability to nuke a country off the face of the earth.
You know, going back to the New Orleans attack, the Bollard issue is also telling. The fact that the city removed them and hadn't replaced them in time, just more evidence of incompetence and a lack of preparedness. It feels like we're constantly playing catch up.
And it's the same everywhere. The systems are failing, the institutions are failing, and the people in charge don't seem to care. The Bollards were probably in some committee meeting somewhere whilst people were getting killed in the street. And then you see how quickly they can change the rules for the Sugar Bowl. It's just crazy.
And it's a microcosm of a bigger problem. We have this tendency to focus on the symptoms instead of the root causes. The Bollards are a knee-jerk reaction. We need to be focusing on radicalization and why our systems are failing, rather than band-aiding the physical aftermath. Why are we always reacting?
Oh, root causes and bollards. So inspiring. Can we just have some competent leadership for once instead of having to figure out all of this stuff while they're scrambling around? Maybe, just maybe, we should all just sit down, have a cup of tea, and try to talk about this like reasonable human beings instead of fighting over every little thing. I mean, it is not like we can all run to Mars, can we?
I wish it was as simple as a cup of tea, but we are facing huge structural issues. The interplay of technology, ideology, and broken systems are combining in new and dangerous ways. We need some kind of global effort to tackle it, but I don't see it happening. And this all comes back to the fact that quantum computing is on the horizon, and we are going to be woefully unprepared.
And this will be the next step. This will be the new battleground, where the nations with the most powerful computers are the ones calling all the shots. We are heading into a new era, and the old rules don't seem to apply anymore. It's like we're in a free fall, and there is no parachute.
We need to start working together now to figure out how to navigate this new landscape. We need to invest in education, mental health care, and in finding ways to de-escalate global tensions. We need an answer and a way forward, and just being reactive is going to get us all killed.
Well, here's a thought. Maybe we should just give up, let the machines take over. I mean, they would probably do a better job of running things than we have. At least they won't start wars over stupid things. And at least maybe, just maybe, the quantum overlords won't be as stupid and destructive as we have been. We will all have to wait and see.